The Rated R superstar Adam Copeland may have suffered an injury last night at the AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view event in Las Vegas. We're going to hear from Tony Khan and listen to what he had to say about that situation. We're also going to talk about MJF, who returned last night at the pay-per-view, and we are learning new details about MJF's contract and how long he might be in AEW, what his contract looks like, and how his return kind of came together, courtesy of FightfulSelect.com. All that, much more coming up right here in this video. So be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Let's dive right in and talk about Adam Copeland. So last night at AEW Double or Nothing, Adam Copeland did a spot off of the top of the steel cage doing a elbow through a table to Malachi Black. And the way he kind of landed was weird because Copeland basically jumped off the cage straight and landed right on his leg. And it looked like a very nasty spot because you had the full force of your leg coming down onto the canvas. Well, Tony Khan last night in the Double or Nothing media scrum was asked about this specific case, and here's what he had to say.
Yes, and Adam, speaking of the face of TNT, Mr. Copeland, we are checking him out. That was an amazing barbed wire cage match. He has been so awesome for us since he came in, and I am knocking on all the wood and crossing all of my fingers and toes that he is okay. Adam Copeland arriving in AEW, it came at the perfect time for us. What a run he's having. I was hoping he would be sitting here with Tanahashi-san and myself right now. He's really beat up, and I'll cross my fingers and hope he's okay. That would be the best thing for AEW. It was certainly a very hard-hitting pay-per-view, and in particular, that was a really hard-hitting barbed wire steel cage match, and we have a great TNT champion, and we're very blessed to have the Rated R superstar in AEW. Thank you.
So that was Tony Khan, the president of All Elite Wrestling, at last night's media scrum, talking about Copeland and how he was actually supposed to be. I think he hinted towards it. He was supposed to be at the scrum. That is not happening because he was getting checked out. It was very apparent that, Copeland did not land right on his leg when he came off the top of the steel cage. And obviously, there's the question of, should a 50 or nearly 50-year-old man be doing a spot that dangerous, where you're coming off of a 10 to 15, however feet tall that structure is, down to the canvas? And I think it's a valid question. And when you consider how that bump was taken, I think it becomes even more valid, because one thing's for sure, Copeland didn't need to do this. I'm sure he wanted to. I'm sure there was part of him that, wants to still prove that he can do these death-defying things, and that's great. But I think above all, one thing that wrestling fans definitely want is for Copeland to be there. He is the TNT champion. He is one of the most important characters, wrestlers, whatever you want to say, on the entire show. And AEW needs him. They need his star power. They need his guidance. They need the wisdom that comes with having a guy like Adam Copeland, who's been in the business for 30 years, in that locker room. Now, of course, whether we find out what exactly is going on, that might take a few days, of course. Whenever you're dealing with leg injuries too, it's depending on the inflammation, might take a little time to get an x-ray and really see what's going on there and examine the injury. But regardless of all of that, one thing I'm sure we all agree on is that we hope that Cope gets better soon, because that was a hell of a match last night that he had. I didn't really expect the amount of insanity and spots that we got in that match, but I thought it was a fantastic match. For me, I think outside of Anarchy in the Arena, that was my favorite match. That barbed wire steel cage match. It was amazing. And then, going to Copeland, right? It was insane to see how, he was still going through the match after that spot. It didn't stop. He just kept going. And that is credit to the performer that Copeland is. He's been doing this for nearly 30 years, as I said. And Doesn't seem like he wants to be stopping anytime soon. So shout out to Copeland. Hopefully he gets better. And now we get to our final story of this video, MJF's contract situation. Obviously, MJF made his return to AEW last night at Double or Nothing, and FightfulSelect.com kind of broke down how this came together and his contract status at this moment. So this is courtesy of FightfulSelect.com. This is part of the report. Go read the full report on their Patreon right now. It says, quote, plans have been in motion for MJF's return for quite some time, with AEW Double or Nothing long being the target date. We've been told that preparations were made well ahead of time to plan out his return. Goes on to say, as if MJF didn't make it clear enough, he's in AEW long term and on a multi-million-dollar per year contract. Most of the roster believed that MJF would be returning tonight, and Fightful had reported that he'd be coming back imminently. Word was that the plan was for him to fly to another city out west and drive to the show. Nobody we spoke to saw him ahead of the return. Again, FightfulSelect.com for the full story there. But from that, you got, I think a lot more insight than we previously did about the definitiveness of MJF's contract situation. MJF, of course, had a dispute with AEW, a bit of a dispute that went public back at AEW Double or Nothing 2022, ironically enough, just a few years ago to the date, where he no-showed an event. He then was alleged to have bought a plane ticket, or someone bought a plane ticket for MJF back home, and there was a big fiasco because the question was, is MJF going to be at the pay-per-view? And it seems like we've come a long way, because we went from that situation to MJF just being there and getting a tattoo of AEW on himself, that's crazy when you think about it. But MJF, I think like the one thing that was clear when he returned back in 2022 at the All Out show, that was when he came out at the end and confronted CM Punk. I think it was clear to a lot of people that, he had at least worked things out with AEW, if not signed a new contract / extension with the company. And it would make a lot of sense if that multi-million-dollar per year contract was signed back then. Because ever since then, we have seen MJF push to the moon like there's nobody's business. He is the biggest star that AEW has. I'd argue he is the best talent in all of professional wrestling. I don't think there's anyone who is more complete than MJF as a pro wrestler. And this contract, this multi-million-dollar per year contract where he is, reported to be one of the highest paid talents in AEW, is well deserved, because All In was a group effort. Don't get me wrong. It required so many people and so many things to go right to happen and break that ticket sales record. At the end of the day, though, we can point to one or two people. We can point to Punk. We can point to Braun. We can point to all these things. MJF was the main event, and that was clear. It was clear that story, that guy, and that title were the main event. And when you have that much drawing power and you're MJF, and when you're AEW, and you're trying to sell out Wembley Stadium potentially again, and you're sitting at 40-something thousand tickets sold right now, which is a really good number. It's a really good number. But you want to move more, you got to have your big stars. And I think we're kind of going to see over the next few months, hopefully, a bit of a domino effect with this. With MJF coming back, hopefully soon. We know that Britt Baker is at least close to, if not already cleared. We are, obviously a little bit far away from Kenny Omega or Jamie Hayter, but those are two other big names to keep an eye on. And then Hangman Adam Page. If Hangman Adam Page comes back soon and is inserted into potentially a world championship feud with Swerve Strickland, that could be epic. And that could bring AEW to a whole nother level, because that feud for the world championship, that is can't miss TV. So we've been talking over the past few weeks of how AEW rights the ship. How do they, fix the woes that they are dealing with as far as television ratings and whatnot. MJF is a fantastic place to start. And this version of MJF, which seems to be, his like, just, I'm going to go out there and just prove I'm the freaking best. That's what we need. That's what AEW needs. That's what professional wrestling needs. And that's what I think MJF deserves. He deserves to be one of the highest paid talent. He is AEW's biggest star right now. And that fact is undeniable. But I'm sure many people will disagree in the comment section. Even if you don't, let me know in the comment section whether you agree that MJF is AEW's biggest star. Until next time, I'm Omer Q for Real Take Wrestling. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Until next time, keep it real.